Thank you all for joining us so much. The past 16 months have brought into focus the essential role of science and research to inform decision-making for people and planet. I am Michelle Wyman, the Executive Director of the Global Council for Science and the Environment. We are so pleased to partner with the French Embassy for this event, as well as to work with an extraordinary group of colleagues from leading French and American academic and research institutes who comprise the steering committee of this symposium. It is my deep privilege to introduce our opening keynote speaker, Dr. Tom Lovejoy, to you all. Dr. Lovejoy tirelessly contributes his work and leadership to deepening a global understanding of and value for the Earth's biosphere.
So thank you, Michelle, and the Global Council for fostering the opportunity to really discuss the common great issues of environment and sustainability. And I would like to particularly thank Ambassador Etienne for his and France's role on these subjects for a very long time. As somebody who specializes in the biological elements of the environment, it's been very clear to me that they have lagged behind climate change in public consciousness and in global policy. And they would have lagged behind a great deal further were it not for the singular role of France in trying to bring biodiversity into a much more prominent role in environmental discussions internationally. Because we do, in the end, all exist on a living planet. Sustainability and human well-being, in the end, depend on biological diversity. And to give you a sense of how urgent that is, I have two data points. One is the report of the Biodiversity Convention's science body, the IPBES, which issued its first report last year, in contrast to the Climate Change Convention, which actually had its scientific body issue its first scientific report even before the convention itself formally came into existence. So when IPBES issued its report last year, it was the first global assessment of the future and the peril for biological diversity. And everybody remembers the mention of perhaps as many 1 million species vulnerable to extinction. And I would add to that a pretty simple observation, but one that goes to the heart of the connection between climate change and biodiversity. Namely, there is so much carbon in the atmosphere from destroyed terrestrial ecosystems that it is roughly equal to the amount that survives in terrestrial ecosystems. So what ecosystem restoration can contribute to helping humanity deal with the Climate Change Convention is very considerable indeed. So all of these things will be coming together in this calendar year. with Climate Change Conference of the Parties in Glasgow and the Biodiversity Convention Conference of the Parties in Kunming, China. And I applaud this strong support of France and the other countries following in France's lead for a good outcome in Kunming, and for the now spreading recognition that what happens to biodiversity has a great deal to do with climate change and vice versa. So that is the very sort of broad brush picture that we are coping with as a species with 8 billion people and climbing. And there's a lot of very specific work that I hope will come out of the discussions of this symposium and of those particular meetings. And I would hope a general recognition that we in fact exist on a living planet, on a planet that works as a combined physical and biological system and populated with a wondrous variety of living organisms, each one of which has a history that goes back to the origin of life on Earth, something like 3.7 billion years ago. And I basically teach my students that there's something fundamentally wrong in terminating one of those lines of evolution. So that's just a single species, but we're talking about actually biological diversity writ large and how it intersects with climate change and how both of those together intersect with a much more favorable outcome for humanity and the rest of life on Earth. So I look forward so much to learning from all the participants in this symposium. Thank you, Michelle and the Global Council for pulling this together. Thank you again to the Embassy of France and Ambassador Etienne for the role you're playing. And I look forward to learning from everybody who is participating. Thank you.